I got thinking about virtues recently and realized how virtue seems to have gone out of fashion. At least agreement as to what is virtuous and if anyone is. Oneself exempted, of course. Times change and so do virtues. Plato's virtues are not those of Erasmus, nor are those of the Protestant Reformation reflected in today's Christian liberation theology. Canada's population lacks common agreement as to what a virtuous person is, how they think, or how they act, and those who claim the title seem to do so to dismiss others and their values. It's a sad loss, but nothing new. For thousands of years, debates have raged about what made behaviors virtuous and, equally, how new values are recognized. According to the dictionary, it's simple. Virtue is a noun describing behavior showing high moral standards. But by what or whose high moral standards are we measuring that behavior? I like to think that if challenged, most people would respond that most of the time they act in a virtuous manner and have high moral standards. The problem in Canada and much of the West lies in the fact that we've moved away from a previously largely agreed upon set of values which newcomers were expected to adopt. Today, our official position is that immigrants are encouraged to retain their own values and not become integrated into the Anglo-Christian values that lie behind our laws and form of government. Putting a real face on the long-held, if only in word and not action, that in Canada we are a proud mosaic and not a melting pot. In most countries, the teachings and values of the religion of the majority largely determines what a virtuous life looks like. However, a value considered virtuous in our country, such as promoting the equality of all people, can be seen as meaningless or divisive in a land where people are divided into castes, or where men have rights such as freedom to drive or be educated or dress as they wish, that are denied to women. Over the next few weeks, I intend to consider some virtues that have fallen out of favor or have adapted to new perspectives. I begin this week with respect. Today, respect finds itself in a funny place. On the one hand, people are being beaten up, even killed, for showing a lack of respect. He dissed me, being put forward as the rationale for the violence. Alternatively, one having hurt feelings because of the comments of others can be cause for complaint. You shouldn't wear that. It ages you and makes you look fatter. Speak English or go back to where you came from. What kind of a parent are you? You can't even control those brats in the restaurant. And the complaints end up on the internet or in front of the Human Rights Commissioner or a civil court judge. On the other hand, many traditional expressions of respect have been abandoned. For instance, certain people and institutions were granted a respected status that was honored. The monarchy, ministers and churches, judges, police and the law, teachers and schools, parents, elders, and public and private property. But when was the last time you saw a teacher enter a classroom to students rising and in unison greeting her with, "Good morning, Miss Dove," rather than being ignored or berated by a parent? Have you seen policemen being met with smiles and "Good morning, officer" as they patrol the mall or the streets? Or is it a dismissive, "Hey, copper"? The laws have changed with new bail and sentencing guidelines that put repeat offenders back on the street with no jail time and encourage perpetrators to reoffend. Insurance company payouts are seen as the solution to criminal acts, not prison terms or compensation. Calls for greater police presence and serious jail terms are portrayed as symptomatic of a cruel, entitled, right-wing society. Arrests are seen as brief stopovers for bail hearings with meaningless terms and released to reoffend again. At both Dollar Store and the LCBO, I've seen thieves walking away with their loot, while staff warned me not to intervene for safety's sake. All are signs of the changes to our perception of traditional notions of roles in society, and of signs of a diminishing respect for others and reduced roles for citizens who want to stand up for what they believe is right. At the same time, we're lectured on our responsibility to recognize the rights of others to live according to their own whims and ways, not to impose on them. Mind you, I have lots of likes and dislikes when it comes to behavior that I think fails to meet respectful standards. I don't like to see graffiti decorating the walls of my city. I don't like people leaning on their horns in response to some real or imagined slight on the part of pedestrian, biker, or fellow motorist. I don't like children who call adults by their first name, or people who try to intimidate or yell at others. After all, when your points are reduced to yelling, you have lost the debate. I don't like those who cheat, take advantage of others, or take the name of the Lord in vain. I don't like bratty children running wild in a restaurant or store, while their parents excuse it as their being cute. I don't understand those who don't offer a seat to a pregnant woman or an elderly soul on unsteady feet. Callousness is just not attractive. So yes, I am opinionated and judgmental and offend my own standards. I'm sure you can make a list just as long of the evidence of lack of respect that you observe and that bothers you. The real question is, why do we remain mute in the presence of the objectionable? When we don't speak up, we're condoning those actions, and at some point, society will run out of the elasticity that makes tolerance both possible and desirable. It begins with small irritants, like increased prices at the liquor store because of the thefts, or obscenities scrawled on your fence that require a repaint. Then your neighbor's car is stolen, and the windows of the local Jewish deli are broken. The uneasiness grows. You see growing numbers of street people and see housing prices soar and realize the bite out of your paycheck for groceries is up, 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 and you too can become radicalized. And that is a real threat to the world in which we wish to dwell. Respect for one another and the rules by which we live is central to living in a free and civilized land. We must make our way back to that again. And it won't come from yelling louder or pounding out your angst on the keys to the internet. We need to find a path to compassion, compromise, and talking things through so that we understand the different ethical values and intentions that together we can all accept, respect, and live with harmoniously. It's going to take involving and inviting our neighbors and trendsetters, politicians and educators, the courts and the parents into respecting the concerns we have. The search for mutually accepted values and virtues is the path to harmony. It's the only way forward if we are to resolve the harm happening on our streets and in our stores and classrooms. We need change, and that change will only begin with us. Mutually accepted virtues are essential to harmony and trust among friends and strangers. It's a goal I challenge you to embrace. And so I pray, God, we have a problem here. You taught us to honor our parents and so much more. But that virtue is under assault because we are not in accord as to what is virtuous. Teach us how to honor you and our nation and our neighbor in this new world with new values and standards. Make us better people. Help us to reach out rather than react. So may it be. Amen.